One thing about Karen is that boundaries mean nothing to her, even when they're marked in blinding neon. She struts through our neighborhood as if the ground, the air, and the mail trucks all belong to her. That clipboard stays glued to her hand like some kind of personal battering ram. She probably sleeps with it and takes it into the bathroom just to keep feeling powerful. This time, though, she chose the worst possible person to mess with. She attacked someone she had no business touching, and from that moment, her whole world began collapsing harder than a bargain folding chair under a heavyweight. It all started the day our new mailman, Andrew, a genuinely nice guy still fresh from training who still thought most people were decent, came over to me after finishing his route. He asked, "Does that woman with the short blonde bob and the constant frown actually despise me? She stares at me like I kidnapped her dog." I laughed and told him, "That's Karen. That expression is just her everyday look. She doesn't blink, she only judges." We figured it was harmless, the usual HOA strangeness. We had no idea she was sizing him up the way a hawk watches easy prey. Then her behavior turned even weirder. Karen began clocking Andrew's delivery times with a stopwatch and jotting notes, as if she were preparing a lawsuit against the laws of physics. She would creep uncomfortably close to his truck, staring into the mail trays like she could smell the secrets sealed inside every envelope. Andrew brushed it aside, still believing that rules would hold crazy people like Karen in line. God bless that optimistic soul, I warned him anyway. Karen never obeys rules. She invents them and then rages when nobody obeys. At that stage, he still saw it as quirky suburban nonsense. He had no clue she was getting ready to step over a line even the devil would avoid. And once she crossed it, the universe made certain she paid interest on every bit of trouble she created. Karen's fixation finally crawled out of the shadows and into pure madness. On a quiet Tuesday morning, Andrew was sorting letters inside his truck when Karen marched up, that smug clipboard tucked under her arm like a royal order. She rapped on his window with her pen as if summoning a servant. Andrew rolled the glass down halfway, still trying to stay polite. That was his first error. Karen leaned in and announced, "From now on, every piece of incoming mail has to be checked by me first for the safety of the community." As though she ran some kind of neighborhood homeland security. Andrew stared, half convinced it was a joke. "Mom, I can't do that. It's illegal. Mail is private." She cut him off with a mocking laugh. "Oh please, the old mailman always worked with me. It's standard procedure." The worst part was that she truly believed the nonsense she was saying. Andrew remembered everything I had told him about how she twists pure fiction into rules and bullies anyone who so much is near her bushes. So he answered evenly, "I cannot hand over residents' mail. This is a federal job." Karen's smile vanished. She leaned closer and hissed, "I'm not asking for permission. If you refuse, you won't be delivering anything on this street again." Andrew held his ground. "I deliver to the people who live here, not to you." She looked at him as if a queen had just been refused. Then, under her breath, she muttered, "We'll see." She didn't storm off like an ordinary angry person. She stalked away, already planning something dark. What made it worse was when Andrew checked with Mike, the former mailman, to see if any of her claims were real. Mike almost choked laughing. "Review the mail?" "I'd rather juggle flaming chainsaws," he said. That was the moment we understood Karen wasn't simply controlling. She wanted actual power over people's private lives, one letter at a time. Andrew shrugged, finished his route, and went about his day. But Karen disappeared into her house the way a villain slips into a hidden lair, blinds drawn, scheming who knows what. And I swear that same night I saw her pacing her driveway under the street lamp, murmuring into her phone like she was arranging something ugly. 3 days later, the storm finally broke. Andrew's truck rolled into the neighborhood the same as always, sun out, birds singing, right up until Karen stepped out from behind a hedge like a cheap thriller villain. Arms folded, jaw locked, sunglasses on even though the sky was gray. Andrew climbed out carrying his stack of letters and gave a polite nod, hoping she would just glare and move on. Fat chance. Karen never picks peace. She planted herself in his path and ordered, "Hand over the mail right now." Andrew sighed and answered calmly, "Tampering with mail is a federal offense, Karen." "I could lose my job, you could too." He froze. Her hands were hidden behind her back, shoulders tight. She wasn't listening, she was waiting. He hadn't finished the sentence when her voice sliced in, cold as ice. "I'm going to ask you one last time." He shook his head. "Karen, I'm not giving you these letters." Before any neighbor could even react, she swung. A metal baseball bat flashed from behind her and smashed into Andrew's jaw with a crack that rang through the whole street. He crumpled to the asphalt, letters flying everywhere like confetti. But Karen wasn't finished. She lifted the bat a second time and smashed it down onto his shoulder, then his ribs, striking whatever she could reach. He tried to drag himself across the ground while blood spread beneath him, and his radio lay crushed from the blows. I heard the screams before I ever saw what was happening. The second I raced outside, other neighbors were already pouring into the street. Derek from Lot 14 slammed into Karen from behind, and the bat skidded away across the pavement. She thrashed and swore like a wild animal while we hauled Andrew clear of her. Somebody dialed 911. Somebody else grabbed towels to stop the bleeding. Andrew's face was already swollen, his lips shaking, his eyes distant with shock. Sirens grew louder in the distance. Karen stood off to one side, hair a mess, chest heaving, muttering about defending the HOA from spies. She even reached for her clipboard, as if that piece of plastic would somehow protect her in court. The paramedics pulled up, lifted Andrew into the ambulance while he whispered, "Please keep her away from the mailboxes from now on." Karen only smirked as though she had scored some kind of victory. The consequences arrived faster and heavier than anyone imagined. Karen assumed she would simply walk back into her house, cook a self-satisfied casserole, and force the whole neighborhood into quiet submission. Instead, she woke to blue lights flashing across her front lawn at first light. FBI agents, postal inspectors, and local officers stood there as if they were shooting a commercial titled, "How to Destroy Your Entire Life in 1 Minute." Karen stepped onto the porch in her bathrobe, still clutching that clipboard like a security blanket, and snapped, "Do you have any idea who I am?" The head postal inspector didn't even flinch. "Mom, you are under arrest for assaulting a federal employee, obstructing the mail, and deliberately delaying United States Postal Service operations." The handcuffs snapped shut before she could finish gasping. Neighbors lined their driveways with phones raised and coffee mugs in hand, watching the whole scene like a live broadcast. Karen shrieked about HOA authority, diplomatic immunity, and community protocol. Nobody listened. Officers pushed her into the back of a black SUV, while her beloved clipboard slipped into a puddle, the pages turning to mush like wet tissue. A week later, Andrew returned, jaw wired shut, accompanied by 2 inspectors ready to give statements. His face was still marked with bruises, yet his resolve stayed solid. Neighbors gathered around him with gift cards, cookies, and handwritten notes apologizing for not stepping in sooner. Court day became pure legend. The judge refused to let Karen finish her long speech about protecting neighborhood purity. He handed down 15 years in federal prison, a $250,000 fine, and full restitution to Andrew covering medical costs, emotional trauma, and lost pay. Her HOA presidency was stripped away on the spot. Her house was seized to pay the legal bills. Word later spread that she now runs commissary schedules behind bars. Still using, of course, a clipboard. Mail service returned to normal. Mike, the old mailman, sent a short message that simply said, "Told you she was crazy." Andrew taped it inside his truck as a permanent reminder that monsters don't always hide under beds. Sometimes they run the HOA. No more threats, no more clipboard dictatorship, only quiet streets, clean envelopes, and the soft click of mailbox lids instead of the crack of a bat.